Do you feel it too? That weight pressing on your mind. That silence. I felt it the first night the stars vanished. At first, I thought it was just me, but no. We all felt it. The whole world did. The astropaths screamed until their throats bled. The psychers clawed at their skulls, and then they went quiet. The comms went dead. No messages could leave. No signals came in. We were cut off, marooned in the void. That's when I knew. The Hive Mind had found us. I'd heard whispers of the Tyranids before. Rumors of alien locusts that strip worlds bare, leaving nothing but bones of rock behind. But you never really understand until you see them. Until you're standing there, with your boots on the soil you thought belonged to you, and you look up, and the night sky is gone. I remember the first time I saw it. A black stain across the heavens, swallowing the constellations I grew up with. It wasn't a nebula. It wasn't a storm. It was alive. That's when I realized the stars weren't shining through anymore because something was eating the light. And then the screaming began. The skies broke open and the spore pods fell. Do you know what it sounds like when the sky rains death? It isn't thunder. It's more like flesh tearing, wet, sickening cracks as living meteors slammed into the earth. Each one burst open, and from the chitinous shells poured creatures that should not exist. Claws longer than your arm, eyes like wet pits of hunger, mouths inside mouths. They came crawling, sprinting, hissing across the fields in endless waves. We fought. Of course we fought. The guard lined the walls, laser guns blazing until the barrels burned. We had tanks thundering down the streets, commissars screaming for us to stand firm. Even Astartes had come, their bolters roaring like the wrath of gods. But you know what it's like fighting Tyranids. You shoot one, you burn one, you crush one beneath a battle tank, and 10 more take its place. And they never stop. Never. I remember one of the Marines tore a Carnifex apart with his power fist, ripped straight through its chest, but by the time its corpse hit the ground, the swarm was already adapting. Their carapace hardened, their tactics shifted. The next wave came faster, stronger. That's when I understood the cruelest truth of all. The Tyranids don't fight wars. Wars end. The Tyranids harvest. And harvests don't end until the field is stripped bare. The ground began to change beneath us. I watched it happen. Great towers of bone and flesh tore up through the soil, like the fingers of some colossal beast clawing its way out of the planet. Capillary towers, the veterans called them. They pierced the skies, pumping their vile fluids into the earth, sucking it dry, turning soil into slurry. Oceans boiled, forests withered, the air itself turned sour in my lungs, and still the swarm came. Do you know what happens to people when the Tyranids arrive? They vanish. Not into death, no, that would be mercy. They're taken. Dragged into nests of sinew and slime, wrapped in cocoons, their biomass leached away to be remade. Men, women, children, it doesn't matter. Flesh is flesh. We weren't soldiers or citizens anymore. We were ingredients. I tried not to look at the sky, but every time I did, I saw them. The bioships, vast pulsing things the size of mountains, hanging above us like vultures. Everything we lost, everything sucked dry by the towers, was being funneled into their waiting maws. The oceans, the forests, the cities, the very atmosphere. It all rose into the heavens, consumed and recycled. Even the air we breathed belonged to them now. And you were there with me, weren't you? You felt the world changing, the ground trembling like it was alive, the horizon crawling, writhing, because it wasn't hills or trees anymore. It was bodies, Tyranid bodies, seething and swarming in every direction, stretching further than we could see. That wasn't a battlefield. It wasn't even a war zone. It was the stomach of a god, and we were trapped inside it. I can still hear the Titan's cannons, the earth-shaking roar of its weapons as it fought to the last. I saw space marines, their armor torn and broken, fighting knee-deep in the swarm until the tide buried them. Heroes, all of them. But the Hive Mind does not care for heroes. It learns. It adapts. Kill one creature and the next wave is immune. Burn one swarm and the next comes fireproof. The Tyranids are not defeated. They evolve. We had victories, yes. We burned hives. We broke fleets. We destroyed entire swarms. But those victories were hollow. Because every time the Tyranids lose, they win. Every death, every battle, every mistake becomes fuel for their evolution. They are never weaker tomorrow than they were today. They are always hungrier, always closer. I used to think of them as animals, predators. But no, animals hunt because they must. The Tyranids consume because it is all they are. They are not individuals. They are not even a species. They are hunger-made flesh, an endless appetite, wearing 1 billion bodies. And yet, there's a greater terror, isn't there? Do you remember what the Magos said before he died? That the Tyranids aren't from here. They came from beyond the rim of our galaxy, crossing the endless void between galaxies. Do you realize what that means? Entire galaxies, entire civilizations may already have been consumed. The light of their stars may have died before it ever reached our eyes. We are not their first meal. We are just the next. That is why I tell you this, why I need you to listen. Because when you look up at the night sky, when you see those countless stars burning above us, you must remember, each one is food. Each one will one day be stripped, devoured, silenced. The Tyranids will not stop until everything is gone. And when they finish with us, they will move on, as they always have, as they always will. I wish I could tell you there's hope, that the Imperium, the Orcs, the Eldar, someone will stop them. But hope is a lie. The Hive Mind cannot be bargained with, cannot be reasoned with, cannot be destroyed. It is not an enemy you defeat. It is a hunger you delay. So, when the end comes, when the shadow falls on your world as it fell on mine, know this. You are not a warrior. You are not a citizen. You are not even a human being anymore. You are biomass, food, and the Great Devourer will not remember you. That is how the Tyranids consume galaxies. That is how they consumed mine. And one day, they will consume yours too. Do you remember the smell? Because I do. I can never forget it. The stench of the Tyranids isn't just rot or blood or burning flesh. It's something else. It's like the whole planet itself was being digested around us. The air grew thick with a chemical stink, acrid and sweet at the same time. Like meat left in the sun until it bloats and bursts. Every breath scraped at my lungs as if the atmosphere itself had turned into poison. And still, we had to keep breathing it, because there was no escape. I told myself we could run, that maybe if we reached the mountains or the sea, or even the old hive tunnels, we might outlast the storm. But how do you run when the sky itself belongs to them? How do you hide when the ground beneath you is alive, shifting, sprouting spines and towers of alien flesh? Every step we took, the planet warped beneath us, bending to the Hive Mind's will. Our world wasn't ours anymore. It was theirs. I saw things I can't put into proper words. Creatures birthed in the middle of battle, crawling straight out of the muck. Rippers swarming like rivers of teeth, stripping men to bone in seconds. Massive beasts with cannons of living flesh fused into their arms, spitting organic shells that punched holes through armored bunkers. One of them roared, and it wasn't just a sound. It was something that rattled inside my skull, like the Hive Mind itself was laughing at me. And still, part of me hoped. Foolish, desperate hope. I thought maybe the Emperor would send salvation. Maybe reinforcements were coming. Maybe the fleet above us would hold the skies. But when I looked up, I didn't see friendly ships. I saw only the bio-fleet. They were like vast living nightmares drifting in the void, silhouetted against the stars they were blotting out. Some pulsed with veins of bioluminescence. Some twitched and shifted, their carapaces opening and closing, like the gills of some deep-sea predator. I swear I saw one split open and birth more spores, vomiting its brood straight into orbit to fall on us. That was when the truth settled in. No help was coming. Because how could it? The shadow in the warp had smothered everything. We were alone, forgotten, food waiting to be eaten. Do you remember when we found that family in the ruins? The mother clutching her children, hiding in the basement of a collapsed hab block. Her eyes were already hollow. She knew, the way I did, that there was no survival. She begged me not to leave her there, not to let them take her alive. Her voice still echoes in my skull. And I wonder, were we cruel to grant her wish, or merciful? I'll never know.